And so you can hear it's mostly subtle, it's kind of a thickening, but you can really hear what it's doing to the drums. It's still giving them a pretty good squash, adding some really interesting harmonic overtones. So buttery smooth. Mwah! Next up in our SSL and Slate Complete Access Bundle series, A to Z is C is for Custom Opto. Slate Digital had already done an incredibly accurate emulation of the famous LA-2A compressor from Teletronix and EVERY, but Slate was like, hey, what if we could get a little more control over this instead of just the usual binary compress or limit settings? What if we could adjust our threshold and release times? What if we had a sidechain EQ? Thus was born Custom Opto. To run down Custom Opto, I'm going to have to introduce you guys to a stable of the Slate Digital plugins, the Virtual Mix Rack. The Virtual Mix Wrap is a container into which you can load all sorts of Slate Digital plugins. Some are available both as standalone plugins and some are individually available only in the Virtual Mix Rack. Custom Opto is only a VMR plugin for now. One of the things I really love about VMR is that it builds its own little buffer in your insert chain. It loads with no latency, and it will load a bunch of plugins, a shocking amount of plugins with zero latency. I've even gotten cheeky and loaded in and messed around with plugins in a track while someone is recording. Don't believe me? Look here, you can see zero latency. Adding a Waves simple plugin. Latency. Adding more plugins. Still zero latency. Now pressing record.
Then one day she finds a way for you to
and adding plugins.
Dislocates.
And there are no skips, no pops. So the VMR is a real working engineer's kind of setup.
Really relates back to you.
Geez, I thought I was old. Am I right? So yes, Plugin Doctor is showing aliasing happening when you're adding the Custom Opto, because the Custom Opto adds tube saturation. All VMR plugins have oversampling on the output, the HQ button right here. You can engage that to reduce the aliasing down to next to nothing. It would be preferable to be in a world without any aliasing, but almost every plugin I've ever used that I've tested in Plugin Doctor creates some kind of aliasing. It's not a big deal as long as you like the sound. Just be aware that if you change the sampling rate, the aliasing itself will change, the character of it will change. So as long as you're staying at one sampling rate, you like the tone of what you hear, don't sweat the aliasing too much. Load it up with lots of presets to get you started. Let's look at this vocal one.
Her pains have passed, passed right through you. dislocate, really relate.
Output volume's a little boosted, but you can already hear what this is doing to the vocals. It's this buttery smoothness and evenness that it gives. It's what the LA-2A is famous for.
For you to dislocate, really relates back to you. When at last her pains have passed, passed right through you. Dislocate.
So, unlike the LA-2A, the Custom Opto gives you controls over attack and release, and you can change the knee slightly, as you can see here in the Doctor. If you're loving seeing these in-depth breakdowns, then consider liking and subscribing. I'm doing all 130 plugins in this series. It's going to be huge and epic. If you'd like to get early news on pro audio deals and innovations, in fact, a little birdie told me that there's a change coming to the virtual mix rack from Slate Digital in just a couple weeks. If you want to be the first to find out about it, join my Patreon, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified when new videos come out.
Relates back to you. Let go. And one day she finds a way.
And again, what sets this apart from just LA-2A emulators is that it has a sidechain equalizer curve that slightly alters when you choose the different shapes, gives you slightly different tones, but most of that is coming from variations in harmonics added by that little tiny screw knob there. That little guy right there. For instance, here the airy setting really brings up the S's and the breaths. Warm puts a bass focus. You guys have ears? You listen.
Really relates back to you. When at last her pains have passed, passed right through you. Dislocate. Really relates back to you. Let go. And one day she finds a way for you to. She dislocates, really relates back to you. When at last.
This added control makes the Custom Opto much more versatile than the LA-2A. You can use this on the mix bus. Check out what it does to the mix. This is really cool.
Dislocates, really relates.
Mamma mia, that's a buttery smooth. And so you can hear it's mostly subtle. It's kind of a thickening, but you can really hear what it's doing to the drums. It's still giving them a pretty good squash, adding some really interesting harmonic overtones. So buttery smooth. Mwah. And remember, for one low monthly fee, all Slate Digital and all Solid State Logic plugins are available for you to use. Check the QR code, like and subscribe, and thanks for sticking here for another video. We'll see you next time. Let's get it.